In this video, we're going to be talking about all the aspects and things that you need to know about the fingers of the clarinet.
My name is Josh Gu, and I'm taking my years of experience learning, teaching, and performing, and sharing all of my best clarinet and music tips so you can get more out of your practice, and most importantly, have fun. You can learn more about all of my many resources at QuickStartClarinet.com, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to get notified when I post new videos.
Whether you're just starting out or you've been playing the clarinet for a while, I hope that you've been getting a lot of good value out of these clarinet fundamentals videos that I've been doing. You can check the link in the description to see the playlist of all of the topics that I've covered. It's been pretty fun doing these sort of deep dives on just one specific aspect of playing. And again, I hope that it's helping you whether you're just starting out or have been playing for a while. For today's video, we're talking about fingers and going over all of the different aspects of fingers to help you squeak less. Yes, that generally has to do with the fingers. To help you play faster. Obviously, if you want to play fast, you have to have good finger coordination. And I think most importantly, to play more relaxed, play with less tension, and feel more natural when you're playing the clarinet. Because if it feels bad and feels uncomfortable and awkward to play, then you're going to run into problems and not have very much fun playing. So when it comes to fingers, I think the most important thing is coming from a relaxed hand position, actually. If we can get our wrists and arms and hands in the right place, then playing the actual notes of the instrument and moving the fingers is going to be so much easier. Some common examples of mistakes that we have with this is when we come at a sort of weird angle, we get our hand maybe too close to the instrument, and then we end up with really curved fingers like this, and it's really hard to play. Or we're sort of letting the clarinet fall down, and then we're really having to stretch for those pinky keys, and it feels really uncomfortable. This also puts a ton of pressure on the thumb. Hopefully you can see how angled my thumb is when I'm letting the clarinet fall down, and we get sore in the thumb joint, sore in the wrist joint, and there can be all kinds of problems there. So what I like to do when it comes to good hand position is to just shake your hand out at your side, let it be super relaxed, super natural, without moving the wrist or the fingers themselves. Then bring that up, and you'll find that you have just this sort of natural curve to the instrument, or to the fingers, sorry. It sort of looks like a C. It's very relaxed, very natural. The fingers are sort of just dangling there effortlessly. Then what I like to do is take this good, relaxed, natural hand position and then bring the clarinet to it. And you'll find, usually, more often than not, your fingers are actually able to cover the holes very easily and very naturally while maintaining this good natural hand shape. Now where your thumb is might be different. You can see now my thumb, instead of being like this with that hard bend in the wrist and the huge pressure there, it's a little bit more like this. It's not perpendicular to the thumb rest or the clarinet. It's maybe a little bit at a 45-degree angle. And this may be different for everybody, but that's where it is for me. It also isn't perfectly with my thumbnail or perfectly with the thumb joint on the thumb rest. I'm kind of right where the nail meets the skin is where I'm holding the actual thumb rest itself. And again, that's going to be different for every different person and different hand. But finding where your natural hand position, then the fingers go in front of the holes, and then the thumb lands where that is, then you could bring the clarinet up to the normal position, and hopefully you'll find that nice and relaxed, easily hitting the pinky keys. I don't have to stretch at all for those. It feels easy and well supported. My wrist is relatively straight going into the clarinet, so I have good support all the way up to the instrument. Then you do the same thing with your left hand. Shake it out, relax natural hand position, put the holes in front of it, and again, easy to find those holes. Our first finger is actually very easy and close to these keys, which is great. Our pinky naturally lands there. Again, the thumb is maybe a little bit more of a 45-degree angle than we would intuitively think. It doesn't have to be perpendicular. Right there is fine. Thumb covers the hole. I can easily press the register key, and it's all relaxed, natural, and easy. I think that's the most important thing. If you take nothing else away from this video other than that exercise of finding your relaxed, natural hand position, that can make a world of difference in your playing. But there's more parts to the fingers and more aspects to the finger motion. So if this is our natural relaxed default, the next most important thing I think is to have minimal motion. So as we're closing and opening the holes, we don't want to be moving our fingers too far away from the keys. That's a very common one that your band teacher or private clarinet teacher have probably said before, is to keep your fingers close to the keys. And it's good advice because we're most efficient when we're in this relaxed, natural position. We can move our fingers very, very fast. The minute we start doing weird stuff like this, where we're really flying away from the keys or having tension as we lift away or doing weird things like that, that's going to slow us down. It's also going to make you more inaccurate. This is a very common issue when it comes to crossing the break, and why we often squeak crossing the break. Probably 98% of the time you squeak crossing the break is not because of your voicing or because crossing the break is some crazy register change. It's a finger coordination issue, because crossing the break is a bit of a complicated finger coordination, because we're coming from A and then to B, no fingers down, all the fingers down. It's a lot to coordinate. Also, pressing the A key is a little bit weird too, where oftentimes we'll sort of be coming up the scale, we lift this a little too high, we lift this a little too high, which makes the ring finger go even higher, and then we're way up here, which makes it really nice and easy to press the A key like this, and we have those other fingers to help support us as we press the A key. But now look how far these fingers have to travel to get to the B. And the reason why we squeak is when we're leaking with some of the higher fingers while we put down the lower fingers. So in slow motion, if we get we'll squeak because these are too slow. You can get all kinds of weird squeaks through bad finger coordination that way. But if instead we keep the fingers close to their keys, minimal motion as we lift each finger, minimal motion pressing the A key, so it's not a big, okay, I'm gonna press the A key now, it's right there, moving my finger as little as possible to press it, then you're in good shape to get to the B. And you could cross the break no problem. As long as you have good air support and you're coordinating the fingers well and they're all landing easily, crossing the break is no problem at all. The next thing that I really like to think about, which we've already talked a little bit about with the fingers, is independent motion. So what I mean by this is that when one finger needs to move, only that finger moves rather than all of them moving. Just like as we were going up the scale, when the middle finger moves, the ring finger doesn't need to come up higher. When the index finger moves, all of them don't need to come up higher. When we're moving one finger, that's the only finger that we're moving. This becomes really important with the pinkies. We always talk about how the ring finger and the pinkies are sort of weaker fingers, which is actually not true. They're actually pretty strong when it comes to gripping. The problem with the pinky and the ring fingers is that they're less coordinated fingers. Our index finger can really point around wherever it needs to. The pinky finger maybe has a little bit harder time pointing wherever it needs to and wiggling independently. So when we're doing something like going from B to C sharp, for example, that's a great opportunity for finger independence issues. So if that we can't move the pinky without moving the ring finger, then you might have something like this, where you're at B, you're trying to get to the left C sharp, and instead of bending the pinky to do it, you move the whole wrist to get over there. But if you look at that ring finger, if I'm moving the wrist and I'm moving the ring finger, then there's a leak there, and you get something like this. And you squeak when you go to the C sharp. So instead, we need good independent motion. And that probably wasn't the most minimal motion because I was trying to over-exaggerate the pinky moving on its own, but that's the idea, is that we need the pinky to move on its own. Same thing going to the G sharp, A, B flat, those notes. We want just this first finger moving to get there, not the whole wrist. That's getting all of the other fingers out of position. And then the last aspect of finger motion, which we've also kind of talked about already, is precise coordination. Just making sure when you're moving multiple fingers at a time that they're all moving simultaneously. This is a really common issue when we're going from like low F to A or C to E, and we get instead of. In that motion, it exemplifies two issues actually. Actually, probably all three. We have minimal motion, where when I was doing ba-ya, the pinky was moving way too far away. So naturally, when I went back, the ring finger has a much higher chance of hitting first before the pinky, just because it's closer to the key. So that's minimal motion. And then independent motion, the reason why the pinky's moving more is because the ring finger is also coming up. So that kind of thinking, okay, pinky goes up, but also ring finger goes up, and then they both end up going up too high. So that's a minimal motion and independent motion problem, which results in a coordination problem where they aren't hitting the keys at the same time or coming off of the keys at the same time. The solution to precise coordination, or the solution to imprecise coordination, is minimal motion, independent motion, and thinking about the coordination aspect of it. So first of all, if we move less, then they're going to be the same distance away from the keys. If we move independently, the ring finger moving is not going to make the pinky move more. But the coordination aspect of it is thinking about them moving precisely together. This is also true when you're maybe doing G to B natural, and you're moving the first finger and the ring finger. They have to move at exactly the same time. Where this really starts to become problematic is when we're going from like C to G sharp in the higher register, and we're lifting and putting a key down at the same time. That's a more complicated motion where we're lifting one hand, putting another finger down on the other hand, so there's more cross coordination that happens there. But again, it has to be simultaneous, because if we press this left pinky too soon, then we'll get a squeak because we're leaking from that key. If we lift these too soon, then we'll hear the G in between before we get to the G sharp. So that coordination becomes super important. My little bonus tip for this is when you're moving and coordinating, you can think about leading with certain fingers in certain situations. This takes a little bit to think about, but it can often fix some of these problems. For example, if you're going from that C to G sharp I was just talking about, and you find yourself squeaking, that squeak is probably because you're pressing the left pinky before you're getting your right hand off. So in slow motion, you're getting. That's super duper slow motion of what's happening. So in this particular case, you can think about leading with the right hand off before you open that left pinky key. So in super duper slow motion, you get. You can hear that extra G in there, which we don't want. But remember, that was super duper slow motion. So in normal speed, I'm still thinking about leading with these off and then pressing the G sharp, not lifting those off first and then pressing the G sharp. It's leading with them first, as in it's still a simultaneous motion, but I'm just making sure that these come off before, as not after the G sharp comes off. I'm leading with them first. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully this gives you some good food for thought for what your fingers should be doing. I think don't forget the relaxed natural hand position. That's going to be the most helpful for having minimal motion, independent motion, and good coordination, is if it's easy and natural for you to hit the keys and cover the holes. One quick little bonus tip when it comes to covering the holes too, make sure you aren't squeezing too hard. I remember was saying relaxed, natural. It's not death grip, squeeze as hard as you can fingers, because if you miss a little bit, if you look at this ring finger, that's a really common one that gets missed, is the right ring finger, because it's the biggest hole and not the biggest finger. If you miss a little bit, but you're relaxed, you'll sort of fall into the hole. Whereas if you miss a little bit and you're really squeezing, that finger's not going anywhere because you have the death grip squeeze on it. So keep it relaxed, let everything sort of naturally fall into the holes with that relaxed, natural hand position, and your fingers will be in great shape. Let me know in the comments if there's any finger things that I missed, any other things that you want to know when it comes to fingers on the clarinet. Also, let me know if there's any other of these sort of fundamental topics that you would like a video like this on. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for hitting the like button so I know that you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you in another one. And last but not least, a huge heartfelt thank you to the Dennersons. This is like the QuickStart Clarinet family who supports the channel and helps to make everything that I do possible. If you would like to support the channel and get some awesome rewards in return where we can work one-on-one over video and you can have my full support moving forward on your clarinet journey, then go to quickstartclarinet.com/supporter.